great Mahayana scholar Chandrakirti said, in order to explain Buddha's words, sutras, one has to reach at least the first bhumi. So, beings like myself, we can only fathom, or we can only just imagine. There are great many shastras, commentaries written by the followers of the Buddha. The 5 major texts written by Nagarjuna, another 5 by Maitreya, so on and so forth. So many great commentaries. And these shastras are the only way we can comprehend very vaguely, actually, for us, the words of the Buddha. So, under no circumstances, I should even pretend that I can explain the sutra of Vajrachedika, or the diamond cutting sutra. My only inspiration to do this came after noticing the Chinese Buddhist community had this great, incredible tradition of reading sutras, which we Tibetans lack. I met a few Chinese who can read Diamond Sutra by heart. It's amazing. And even in China I met a few. So, just to inspire ourselves, we will do the second part of the Diamond Sutra this year again. And we begin with a point where Subhuti asked Buddha, what should we name this sutra? As an answer to that, Buddha said, this sutra should be referred as a prajna paramita. And he said, the reason why we should say it, we should name this sutra prajna paramita, is because there is nothing that is beyond this. To be more precise, there is no beyond. So there is no going beyond. Okay, let me summarize this a little bit. Of course, Vajrachedika Sutra talks, this is the sutra that expresses emptiness in its raw format. In sutras like Lanka Avatara Sutra or Dasabhumi Sutra, Buddha sort of only indicates. He begins saying like, oh Bodhisattvas, 3 worlds are nothing but just mind, so on and so forth. So he only began to indicate. Whereas here, Buddha spoke the emptiness directly. And as you will find in the later stage, for one example, I will jump to the later stage. Buddha asked Subhuti, what do you think? Do you think that I teach or I taught? He continued saying, now, if you think that I teach or I taught, then you have a wrong view. There is no teachings to be taught. So, if anyone have this thought that Buddha taught, then it is ultimately a wrong view. See, this, one can't get more direct than this. Anyone who doesn't have much background in Mahayana Sutras or Shastras, if they read this, it's like a madman talking. Because he is doing the talking, and at the same time he is saying, if you think I'm talking, you are wrong. It's because of these, even his followers, I think one great Zen master, I believe, said, if you happen to see Buddha walking in the street, you should kill him. Okay, so now if you want emptiness, This is it. This is the sutra that talks of this and the Heart Sutra. So I think I have to summarize this a little bit. And I will summarize based on the name, diamond cutting. Actually, the diamond is not the right translation. It should be Vajra cutting, Vajra Chedika. Because diamond is, we can cut. Jewelers can cut. I mean, that's easy to cut, isn't it? Again, when we talk about a Vajra Chedika, this Vajra has got nothing to do with this Vajrayana Vajra, okay? So keep this in your head. Of course, ultimately, they may be talking the same thing. But here, when we talk about a Vajra, Dorji Kyapa, this Vajra is referring to the attribute of Lord Indra. It's believed that Lord Indra has this weapon, that it can destroy anything, but nothing can destroy this weapon. Now, the essence of this, the meaning of this sutra, or the essence of this sutra is the only one that can destroy that weapon. Okay, we are only talking metaphorically. Don't think that Buddhists are coming up with some very sophisticated weapon that can actually destroy the Lord Indra's weapon. Because Lord Indra's weapon, the diamond, the Vajra, hard to defeat, hard to destroy, hard to dismantle. That is a metaphor to symbolize our ego. Ego can destroy a lot of things, but it's really difficult to destroy the ego. Ego is, in this case, like the Vajra. So to dismantle this ego, we need the essence or the meaning of the Vajra Chedika Sutra. Okay, let me talk more philosophically now. Tawa tamche pangwichir kotam tela chasalo. Okay, Vajra also is referring to a view, all kinds of view.
各种各样的见地。
Okay, wrong view. Okay, you know, we as a Buddhist, we go to teachings like this. And of course in our head, we have this thing. We are going there for Vajrachedika teaching. So the attitude is like to do something good, isn't it? To accumulate merit, maybe. To accumulate wisdom. And also have a little bit of animosity towards this ego. As a Buddhist, if you hang around with other Buddhists, if you know how to converse with them, one of the more attractive conversation would be if you sort of look down at the ego, then you get by. So, what I'm saying is, you might think, okay, Vajra Chedika Sutra must be a sutra to destroy wrong view. And wrong view, what are wrong view? Definition of wrong view is very relative. What Buddhists think wrong view is not necessarily wrong view to maybe other religion. Other religions' right view is very much the wrong view in Buddhism. And within the Buddhist schools themselves, what is right view for one is not really right view for the other. And most of us, we think a wrong view is usually something unwholesome. Like, if you don't love your neighbor, then that's not right view, like that. If you know, also, so there's many of these kind of so-called right view and wrong view. If you obey your elders, that's right view. You know, the whole system of what is doing the right thing and what is doing wrong thing. Many we have. And it has also changed in the course of centuries. Many of the things that used to be very embarrassing or shameful to oneself and to the family and to the society it's okay now, you can do it. So we have that kind of right and wrong views, right? But in the Vajrachedika, we are not talking about this kind of wrong view. When we talk about cutting the view, we are not talking about this kind of cutting the wrong view. The essence, the quintessence of the Vajrachedika Sutra is to destroy all the view, This is what we prostrate to the Buddha who has abandoned all the view. Okay, in right and wrong view, both. Getting rid of the wrong view is easier than getting rid of the right view, Because right view is what we have, what we value. We call them traditional, valuable, That's what we, the society, is depending on. That, so-called right view is like a nutrition, or it's like a spine of society, is like the common sense. It's a common sense to have the right view. But you will understand here, in the Vajracchedika, common sense is not what we are looking for. That is Mr. Confucius' job. Here we are looking for wisdom, and wisdom and what common sense is absolutely different. This is why Buddhism is difficult, difficult and very difficult to like. It's not likable. Buddhism is not likable because it is not common sense, because it's a wisdom. Common sense is an interpretation and manifestation of ego, and it can be used by ego, and ego can feel very comfortable, especially some ego. Whereas wisdom is the opposite of ego. This is really quite an important aspect to understand in the Mahayana. Okay, for instance, the term yogi. Okay, I'm not talking about the Vajrayana. Yogi means someone who does yoga, and yoga has many meanings, of course, especially these days. But one of the very important connotation of yoga is, in Tibetan we call it nanjar, the wealth of being normal. When you have this wealth, then you are very rich. Then you are not starving. Then you never think you don't have.
那你从来不会认为说你没有。
Poverty mentality is totally gone. So yogi means someone who has this wealth of being normal. But now, the difficulty is how to define normality. Mr. Confucius has one way of defining the normality. Of course, Mr. Freud also has one way of defining the normality. And then the Jung and all kinds of, the different religions, they talk of a different way of what is normality. Well, whether you like it or not, according to the Vajracchedika, if you have a common sense, you are not a normal being. Do you know why?
为什么呢？你知道吗？
Because a normal is someone who is not tainted, not influenced, not conditioned.
This is normal. Or
Yeah, that's normal. Normal.
Yeah. It's not conditioned.
Not conditioned. Not influenced.
Mm-hmm.
When you drink a lot of wine, and when you talk rubbish, your friends wait until you become normal if they need to talk to you seriously. And at that time, they think you are abnormal because of the wine. Your mind is conditioned, influenced, under the spell of wine. As the wine's sort of effect is going down, then you reach to the normal state. Okay? That's one example. And the Buddhists think, if a person have emotion such as anger, jealousy, pride, these are much more intoxicating and much more powerful than red wine. And we drink them quite constantly. So, very, very rare that we actually are not drunk. Almost all the time. Morning, get up, already drunk. Basically, there's so much emotions in our head. Now, where does this emotions come from? You should check. Where does these emotions come from? It comes from view. It doesn't matter right or wrong view. Let's not talk about right and wrong view. View. It comes from the view. Remember we talked a long time ago? We have a certain view about our way of living, such as this size of nose is the right size, or this thickness of lips is the right thickness. And that's the view you get it. And not even from the lips of Confucius. Actually, if it come from him, it would be at least slightly better. Most of these come from some stupid fashion magazine editors who themselves have suffered when they are child, according to the Freudians, for being referred as lizard lips. So then we see a lot of people nowadays puffed up with a lot of puffed up lips. Now, where is the normality? Where is that wealth of normality? These kind of people are starving. These kind of people are constantly thinking not enough. And that's why, but ironically, it sort of helps economy though. If the insecurity of the world, with the help of these Buddhists, like these sutras, if the insecurity of this world goes, economy will go down. So we should really think twice whether we should do this or not. So anyway, lips and whatever nose is a very simple example. But that's how we think all the time. Where does the world come from? Thousands of answers. What lies behind this universe? Where does does the universe has end? Thousands and millions of answers. And each answer is a view. And as long as you have a view, you will have a system. As long as you have a system, then you will have corruption, computation, bribery, and then what happens? I actually don't know. Then things goes wrong, I guess. Yeah. So, Vajracedika, the essence of the Vajracedika is to cut through all the view. But this is easier said than done, huh? It sounds impressive when we talk about viewless view. As we hear these things, it's kind of convincing. Yes, the views are the culprit, stuff like that. But we have so much clinging to these views. Some of the view, like those birds, sometimes they release one or two feathers. We also sort of renounce, reluctantly, of course, some of this view, but most of our feathers, most of our view, like a feather, we keep intact, comb all the time. And if the view especially comes from a certain holy mouth, of course, then the feather becomes even thicker. Such and such master said so. You will not even think of disputing that. This is why Chandrakirti said, towards the end of the 6th chapter, those who are not wise will do a lot of bad things and go to hell. And underline this word, those who are not wise will do a lot of good things and go to heaven. Not wise, underline the word. Both not wise. And then he said, those who are wise will go beyond good deeds and bad deeds and go to nirvana. But all this is such a big talk. I guess all we can do is talk and talk. If this ceiling falls on our head, emptiness will not come in our head. I don't think so. Saving our life will be the first thing in our head, isn't it? As I said, clinging to our old view, our old habit is the culprit. See, when Subhuti asked Buddha, what should we call this sutra? He said, Sherabchi Parduchimba. Sherabchi Parduchimba. Prajna Paramita. Prajna. Prajna means like the supreme mind. Sherab, she, like a mind or the intellect. Rab is like a supreme. And then Parduchimba. Even going beyond that. So let me imitate Chandrakirti. If you are unwise, you will think someone who is ignorant how should we call it? Bad. If you are unwise, you think those who are ignorant are bad. And if you are unwise and you think someone has a wisdom, someone who has a wisdom is good. Only if you are wise, then you can see a person is good when they are beyond ignorance and the wisdom. I tell you, this is, you can't get higher than this view now, right? Of course, relatively we can speak like, oh, Manjushri has a lot of wisdom. But from this point of view, it's an insult when we say Manjushri has a lot of wisdom. From the Vajracharika's point of view, Avalokiteshvara has a lot of compassion. Relatively you can speak like that and get by. But ultimately from the Vajracharika's point of view, you are making a mistake. And by the way, I'm not making these things up. It's in the text. Because some of you might think, what is this man talking? Manjushri has no wisdom? Actually, I didn't say Manjushri has no wisdom. I didn't say that. I said, someone who says Manjushri has wisdom, according to this book, is wrong. There's a big difference here. Buddha himself said, what do you think, Subhuti? Did I teach? If you think I did, then you are wrong. I'm trying to sort of undo this sutra a little bit because, it's very direct and raw. Buddha said, Ramjo Dijinam Dusem, Jebuchim, but Sensumjani Buddha, Dijishi, Budajama Yanda, but Zobasanjo Tam, Ramji Sabajam, Tani Malazo, Teji, Lucian, Jebuchim, but Sensumjani Bukanda, Dijishi, Basumba, the 10 Machi, but Dijishi, Basumbi, Dina Dijishi, but Sensumjani Gio. 32 major marks. Okay, this is a question that Buddha asked Subhuti. Buddha asked this question, what do you think? How does Buddha look like? Actually, if I ask you how does the Buddha look like, I'm sure the first thing that comes in your head is this bronze statue made in Kathmandu, unblinking eyes, someone who doesn't even breathe in and out, isn't it? Yeah, someone who you sort of feed like a pet every morning or evening with some bowl of water and fruits and flowers. It's kind of amazing, actually, some of us, we don't even think. Now, after years and years of offering, one spoon, one day, we haven't experienced that one spoon of rice or the fruit has sort of become less as a sign of being eaten. And also sometimes when you forget, changing the fruit, then there's no complaint also, Now this is a bigger question. How does Buddha look like? Golden colored. What do you call it? Issuing lights. All the 32 major marks anyway. Is that how you see? Actually, in this question, Subhuti has become slightly clever here. He answers, no. He said, no, this is not, those 32 major marks are not the Buddha's form. And why? Why those 32 major marks are not the ultimate Buddha's form? Isn't that what we are told, that the Buddha has the 32 major marks, 80 minor marks and all of that? In the sutras, in the shastras, everywhere. But Subhuti has a very good answer here. He's saying, well, yes, but those teachings actually are telling us that they are not the marks of the Buddha. Or actually, in other words, that Buddha is beyond marks. It's quite amazing actually, even if you think in a very relative way. And if you go through the 32 major marks, actually it is a teaching of emptiness. But most of people think, 32 major marks. We are now describing the beauty of the Buddha. Would you marry someone who has a ear touching on the shoulder? Or a webbed hand like a duck? Or very, very, very thin and, very tiny ankle? And tongues that can, if it sticks out, it can cover the whole face? And the width and the length of the body is exactly same. See, even as you go through the 32 major marks, it is a very clever arrangement actually. You see, the people want to know something, so they tell you something. But then they tell you so that you have to, if you think properly, you actually end up thinking, this is not possible. And then you begin to ask more and more and more, and then you end up, now I know what he's saying. He's saying Buddha is beyond form. And that is the beauty of the Buddha. Because what is beauty? Beauty is something that will not cause pain. And as long as there is a view that the certain size of nose, certain size of lips and all of that, all these views are going to cause pain. That's it for tonight. Please have a good sleep. Okay.